Today, we're talking with Frank Keasler. He's running for mayor of Jacksonville. He has a law degree and an accounting degree from the University of North Florida. He received his doctorate of jurisprudence from the Columbia School of Law. And he is an interesting person to talk to, not just about politics, but about life in general.
Amen.
But for the next 90 days, as this election looms, his focus is on becoming mayor of Jacksonville. Thanks for joining us, Frank.
Well, Fred, if you don't mind me calling you by your first name, sir,
I'm good.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to say that, Fred, it's an honor and a privilege. And, this is you and I being on this podcast really reflects the whole core of this crusade. I've never run for office before. It's something God laid on my heart. And I was one of 30 people, maybe, Fred, that we had that were there at the Black Chamber of Commerce event in
Baldwin.
Baldwin. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so with that, small a crowd, and I remember pulling up there and I went, okay, this is interesting. And I literally thought, well, there's a reason I'm here. We'll see what happens. So here I am, and I have a real penchant for making sure that we do not at least give the people an opportunity to elect a man of the people. And we do not elect again, as we've done for 50 years of my cognitive awareness, a man or woman of the party. I am of a party, but I'm not here representing a party. I'm representing my belief system, and it's an honor to be here. It blows my mind that I have a grassroots swell that is growing as swells do exponentially. So I appreciate it, Fred, for you having me on.
Well, you partially answered the question, but I'm going to go and ask a question I was going to hold for later. Why you? Why now?
You put that in your question, and it's really easy when a man is, and I say a man because I am one. It could be a woman standing here or sitting across to you that says and has a belief that they've been literally called to do this. And it's a freedom I have to run with what I believe is the purpose, that I'm here, and that is to deliver a message. And it all started with the, I call it very, paradoxically, in a parody of a title, The Summer of Love, that began in really, the spark, the purpose, everything started in March and April of that year with the coronavirus. And we now know later, I will not go down that trail, that insanity was just that. And we won't go down that trail either, because there's a lot to talk about life on that. And footnote, how do we believe we can stop life? I just, amazes me. But that aside, with the question asked of why me, why now? Why me is because I couldn't run. I spoke at the mayoral forum for the Rotary Club, the First Coast Rotary Club at downtown at the Marriott. And I spoke. I was one of the table members, if you will, of candidates. And I was second to the end on the left. And the question was asked, introduce yourself. And when it got to me, I said, hello, I'm Frank Keasler, and unlike anybody else up at this table, I am not running for mayor. I sit here and I'm on your show because I couldn't run from God's call for me to run for mayor. I don't need this in the sense that I'm not a person that's a political, I don't have a political career. I've supported mayoral candidates. I supported a state Senate candidate out of Tampa decades ago. And I mean in an active way, actively involved in the campaign. It's just something that I said, I am so tired of two parties tearing us apart and government killing America, and our government at the local level being run in a manner that just belies logic, belies any sense of compassion, and really belies any economic justification for what you're doing and what you're getting in so many things that we do, quote unquote, in government. So I designed a pin that God put on my heart called the All Patriots, All Lives Patriot pin. It was a cross, a flag, and 5 emblems: red, yellow, black, white, and brown. We all have purpose and meaning wherever found. The Creator loves and knows all the people of the world. Well, then we had the George Floyd. We had Lenny Curry taking things down in the middle of the night. And then continued with the COVID and what we've seen. And I can't find anybody, Fred, that's happy with where we are or what we've seen over the last 2 years. And so I was like, okay, I'm not going to let another political candidate, and candidly, Fred, a white candidate, one more time, patronize, placate, and pander the Black leadership in our town, in our state, in our country, with a gesture done in the middle of the night. And I don't care. I do care. Please understand, I care deeply. But I am convicted to say what the message is that God's put on my heart and what I am as a person. And nobody will ever get me to convince me that things done by the government in executive order, if you will, meaning by one person's decision in the middle of the night, is democracy dies in the darkness, and nothing legitimate is found, if you will, around the corner in the cloud in the cover of life. That's not where legitimacy in government. I'm not saying anything about the issue of taking down a statute or every Confederate statute, if that's really what we think will make a difference, torn down and made into concrete. But until we get together on things that are much more fundamental as a people, I think we better start addressing things such as the whole issue of our relationship. And that's why my campaign's called an awakening, building together a city of people with their heads lifted. And the first order of business is we're going to take note of where we are in this nation and then look each other in the eye and who we are. And that's where the tagline is: red, yellow, black, white, and brown.
Well, where
so
are
why
we?
me?
Why
I couldn't.
Go ahead.
I couldn't run, Fred. I'm not ashamed of my faith. I'm not going to wear it on my. I wear it on my sleeve with grace. It motivates me, inspires me. It is the center of why I'm here, for a purpose that I believe is, just part of God's plan of this one nation under God, this, land upon which he shed his grace, this land again of, equal justice for all. And obviously we're not a long way, we're a long way from where we could be or should be, but we're surely not the land that we ought to be. And so, but I couldn't run from the call. And it just happened that timing is everything. I just happened to be the guy that got the mail. It's almost like it got delivered to me by accident, so to speak. I don't mean that God made a mistake here. Because, Fred, I have told, since I first told somebody besides me in the spring of 21 that I believed God was calling me to run for mayor.
All right. Realpolitik here, Frank. The mayor proposes, the city council disposes. On your website and in our prior conversation to this, you've outlined several issues that are important to you. Name 3. What are the top 3 that you would look to accomplish once elected?
Well, if one looks at my website, you'll see that there's and Fred, I'm gonna cheat because I took time to write. That's not a canned, as you can see. Hopefully, you can see
Yes.
that's not a canned response to the question, and I apologize for um, for looking away. But if there's too many things that are needing a fresh look. There's just way too many things we've done the same way since doing them from the start, pre-consolidation. And you have to understand, I mean, I've been here, I grew up here, I've been around government, my practice in one of the world of entities and transactions and real estate and zoning issues and planning and in the day DRIs and PUDs and so forth. Those things had me interface often and many times, with a whole host of different branches, agencies of our local and state, and even at time, particularly in the IRS world, federal agencies. And I have a man that got it put in my lap. They served his breakfast to my table at a restaurant we weren't supposed to even be at, and he walked over and said, "I think you have my breakfast." And my friend and I looked at each other and said, "Well, it probably is because we haven't even ordered yet." And he ended up being this wonderful man, well respected man in this town that spent 37 years, I think, with the city. A professional engineer, licensed professional engineer, and he has an MBA and is retired now. But he told me, I said, "How many processes did you see when you came in that could have been done differently in the city, and when you left 37 years later, they were still being done?" He said, "Frank, there were processes that when I came in the 70s, mid 70s, that they were doing in consolidation that they're still doing to this day." Now, unfortunately, I think, Fred, the answer, if you had to say if you got first thing, I think I'd say do the clear ordinance. I don't think we're ever going to get it right as long as there's systems that waste and channel monies for processes and levels of, if you will, service assistance. I'll put it that way, assistance to a supply chain, if you will, that exists in government. As long as we have a culture of government that has no mindset for saving money, no mindset that we've got extra money, we can still cut the budget. People have to understand that government has been built for really since, in a massive way, since the World War II economy turned inward and blew up the largest economy on the planet. And the result of that, as we know, the cronyism and the waste and the fraud, the watchdog groups will tell you that it's at least, if you went in and just threw darts at things, you'd find 10%. That's my metaphor. If you really look, it's 15 to 20. Some say it's clearly 25. And there are those out there that for decades saying through antiquation, literal diverting of federal or state and local revenue to people and companies and services that aren't necessary just for some cronies to be on the udder, it's 40%.
Well, let's put a pin in it right there. As mayor, you get the first crack at the budget. You decide what you're going to propose to the city council. You'll have, if you maintain the budget review committee that convenes almost on a monthly basis leading up to the budget being proposed to the city council, you get a chance to decide what you're going to cut out of that and and who's not going to have their job in this next fiscal year and who is. So one of the first, you as mayor get a chance to propose that, but I would imagine that you're going to propose it with some idea that you have support for these cuts that you may propose. So are you looking at issues that serious issues that you would propose to cut from the city budget that will be proposed to the city council by July? Because you get a chance to do this from January to May, then it goes to the city council for them to dispose. So do you have specific ideas about cutting the budget?
No, at this point, I don't. I am, what I do have more an eye for, Fred, is this, the way that our budget is even presented. And let me say, as you know, I have an accounting degree, a bachelor's of business science in accounting from UNF. I have a doctorate in jurisprudence from Cumberland School of Law. No worries there. And did in the top 16% of my class with honors and so forth. And I applied to and was in the acceptance pond, if you will, in the top 3 programs in the world for U.S. federal taxation, and got into the University of Florida. They let me know first, and I wanted to go there. I'm a Gator. Sorry if I offend you, Noles, but y'all are proud Noles these days. I will say that. You can have fun with the Noles again. They actually got something to chuckle about and be happy about.
So
But
when you say you had problems with the way the budget is being presented, again, that's something the mayor's office will determine. In what way are you talking about other than what's being done
well, let
right
me say
now? What are
this.
you talking about?
If you look at the 2019 budget and you look at the mayor's budget, it's 10 million right at it, 9 and change, maybe 10 and change. I think it is. I think they actually cut it in this budget. But in this year's budget, the mayor's budget, his office budget is 4 and change, high change, maybe in 5, maybe 4, like 4.2, 4.3. And they move another mirrored amount almost into a mayoral community development fund. It's still funding that's at the complete discretion of the mayor, in the sense that he's got broad latitude as the executive to make the quote unquote business decisions.
Well, you're going to have that attitude. You're going to have
I
that.
agree.
So
But
what are you
let me
going to do?
say
What are
this.
you going to do?
They look at it as a politician. I look at it as a business person. I look at it as a steward. I look at it as like a receiver that's been appointed by the people to go in there and find out what in the world we're spending 3.3 something, 4 something $billion a year. And that's just a lot of money, Fred.
So you're going to outline it when you get into office in July and sworn in. You're going to lay bare to the public every item in the budget so the public can see it, and then at some point you're going to determine what out of that quote discretionary funds that you're going to keep. Is that not right? You're going to decide what.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So
Absolutely.
we'll be in the same. So we'll be in the same boat. It's just going to be a different driver of
Well, let
of
me
the
ask you.
process,
Let
and
me
you're going
ask
to
you
do
a
the same
question.
thing.
Well, and I agree with you. The discretionary part of our, really, from the Fed level down to us, in the way our constitutional system of government works and must work. No, as I did when I did practice law for 30 years, I wouldn't allow clients to put themselves in a situation that could result in stalemate, because most times even not the best decision is better than no decision. And I'm just saying that I understand that there's this level of discretion that our charter, our state constitution, our U.S. Constitution, it's the executive branch. It has to be that way. There are remedies to an abuse of discretion by our charter and the council's, ability to come together and deal with it. But that said, it's more of putting it into the right buckets of, we have no choice here. We have lots of choice here. We have no choice here. And I'm not saying that simplistically as it sounds. but it's very, very difficult. And I went through that educational pursuit of mine and accomplishments, not to brag on anything. By God's grace, I got that great education, but I have a gift for numbers. I've been told it, known it since I was a kid. I can see numbers, and that budget is one of the hardest budgets I've ever. I mean, I can send you work product where we've built business plans that have pro formas that span 7 years, and they're an inch and a half thick of, paper, if you will. And we can read them and we can understand them. You have to chase numbers down in that budget. And
Assuming,
and let me say this.
mhm.
I think that, and I say all that, you have to understand, as a guy that was a CPA twice in his life for big 8 accounting firms and did audits, I kind of have a blue tick hound nose. And when it comes to sniffing out things that don't look right, don't smell right, don't present right, and probably something isn't right. And so I just want you to know, Fred, you have to understand, from my perspective, unlike any other mayor we've had, we surely didn't have Lenny Curry. He surely wasn't digging deep to find out where in the world we're spending it and how in the world we can spend less and do equally, if not more, by getting rid of the fat.
Well, you
getting rid of the waste.
Do know that Mayor Curry has an accounting degree, also runs
I
an accounting
understand that
background.
Mayor Curry, but let me say this much. I agree 1000%. But if you don't have a penchant, a belief system that you're stepping into a company like a guy that's a turnaround expert, then he and I are looking at it in two different perspectives.
So
I believe, you with me? He looks at it from a standpoint of, it all seems fine. Now I will say this. There's something wrong, and I don't know, and you may know this answer, Fred. But as of the summer, if not the fall, or last year, late spring, we were filed audited financial statements going on the second year. Now, our budget is last year was a 7 point something billion dollar budget, or the year before that was a 6 point something billion dollar budget, 5.9, I think. And General Motors, it's $100 billion, quarterly files 10Ks with the SEC that are audited financials, and we can't file financials on our city for 2 years. We're going on 2 years.
All right.
And under state statute, you can't get any state money.
Right.
They'll give you a notice, they give you 6 months to cure. But I want to know why our year ends in the fall, why by January 30th, March 30th, first, every year we've got our financials.
So are you going to be in favor of assuming that it's going to land on your desk as the city council discusses it in the next month or two? Are you going to be in favor of pouring any more money into stadium improvements, possibly putting a roof on it, or the $1 billion more that may be asked for the mayor? Are you in favor of any stadium improvements?
This is my philosophy I'm going to bring to the office. It's never been brought before. And every time in this shipyard deal, I hope it's not all done. I want to sit down with Khan. I respect the man, Mr. Khan. I don't in any way want him to think that if I'm elected mayor that I'm going to be a burr in the saddle. To the contrary, I think you'll find what I'm going to do for this city with the ideas that we have is going to make his franchise and his investment see results, IRR valuations that are well above their pro formas.
By the time you get in office, most of that will be done.
And if it is, it is. And I can't do anything about what's been done behind me, but I can stop it going forward.
Well, the stadium improvement is sitting there will be looking you in the face.
I will sit down with Mr. Khan and the lawyers and the people at the table, and this is the way I'm going to present it. It's time we, the people, shared in the IRR, in our investment, in that which you bring to Jacksonville. And therefore, based on what we're investing in, whether it's a a new town center, a new stadium roof, a new shipyard improvement, a rebuild of downtown, north of the stadium, Springfield, whatever. I'm a big believer in that we need to really take advantage of the infrastructure and the hardscape we have instead of clear more land when it comes to development. But again, whatever we're doing, the return to us is to me, it is more than and should be more than the the marginal, what they call marginal tax revenue that's generated from the footprint, from the construction permit, the buy permits, the employment upticks, the sales taxes that come from that, the ad valorem values that go up because new houses are bought, values go up, or again, rents are paid in commercial environments, sales taxes go up. So every one of those investments are somewhat with actuarial, I hope, computation calculated that we get that back. We hold off on the taxes. We don't get our piece from the state. We let y'all have it. And then then you kick it in, start in year 10. I'm just saying that all of those are built upon pro formas, Fred, very sophisticated pro formas of here's the development, this is what's going to cost us, here's the money, this is why we need the benefit. It helps us get to a level of return that Wall Street, hedge funds, pension funds, we're willing to invest our money at. And at the end of the day, great, we'll do that. But when you cross that threshold, we want to see a little bit of that stream. And we don't want any interest on our money. Where our interest is the uptick in taxes. We just want our capital back when you punch through your ceiling. When the investment goes north in every other landscape of capital investment on this planet, when that needle moves further north than people anticipated, bonuses are paid, people get extra spiffs, extra, watershed moves down to people because thresholds have been met. And all I'm saying is we don't want to stay in any deal. We don't want to be an equity partner. Government doesn't need to be in the business of development. It needs to be the business of making sure the development we as a city want. We don't need to own anything. We may do a 99-year land lease. That's our decision because we own it now. And we want to keep it and we make it a real palatable deal. But at the end of the day, we just want to be. So just think about it. Look at all the budgets over the last 10 years of the Downtown Investment Authority of our funds that we've given away, not given away, invested. What if in the last 30 years, the money we gave away, those investments are still returning, and based on the agreement, we're now starting to get these residual, renewals, if you will, in the insurance world, residual payments. And now we have a continual, after 30 years, of a return of the billion we put in, the million we put in, the 500,000 we put in, the 5 million we put in, the 10 million, the 20 million, all those chunks add up. And again, if the investment doesn't perform, if the returns aren't what everybody expects, there's some kind of recession that occurs that lasts longer than it really tanks the return on the whole picture, then we're not in any seat to say anything, and we're not trying to be in anybody's business. But if the shipyards, if the NFL franchise becomes a $2 billion franchise, then we should get back a piece of our money, all of our money. If we're asked to put in $50, $100 million, do you know the number they're asking for?
No, I don't.
Have you seen what they're toying with? I know they just wrote them a check for $700 and something thousand.
That has to do, of course, with the completion work on the training facility. One more thing, we're running out of time here. Duval County Schools. Is the Keasler administration going to do any tinkering with the Duval County Schools or Duval County School Board?
Yes, sir.
What kind?
What made me pause, Fred, was the word tinkering. I don't think I would have.
Well, I mean, there's pretty much
I'm
a
just having fun on
separation.
the
There's
show
a separation there.
Yes. Oh, yes. And it's, as I've told people, and people come to me and that are interested and going to vote. on this platform we're presenting, and you've read the platform, and people can at Keasler, the number 4, mayor.com, Keasler Keasler, the number 4.com, mayor.com. I'll get that right. Sorry, folks. The bottom line is, will I deal with the mayor? The answer to the question I told people was, back to that, is all the mayor can be is a bully pulpit, is have a bully pulpit, if you will, have a soapbox, a scope of influence. There's no legislative authority for the mayor to tell the school board what is the program, curriculum, culture, etc. So to answer the question, I've created a lifting heads program that I've been working with, and fortuitously a man I met through an association golf group in my church is in the space of conservative homeschool educational curriculum material, and was blown away by what I laid out this curriculum. And basically it's lifting the heads of our pre-K and early elementary students to know they were created with a purpose, literally teaching our children to know you have a purpose for being here. There's a reason why your little life is here, and we want to help you find every bit of dream you have. And I'm speaking to the kindergartners, the fifth and middle schoolers, a lifted heads education program to know they were created for a purpose. We put the best, we get a quantity and quality of educational occupational counselors that do rotation in our middle schools, and kids go through it all year long in their appointments a couple of times each year, and they feel out what is theirs. We all know there's tests. Anthropology is now getting in the world of this, in the sense, because we've got so much data, they can kind of look and go, you do well in this. Have you ever thought about that? And Susie goes, it's funny, I like that. Okay, let's talk about what that is. So now a kid has something that fits them, and they know now, I was told I was created with, I was created with a purpose. And now I'm finding I got a certain thing I can do for a purpose. And the high schools, lifting the heads of our senior highs students by equipping them to go out, as well as any young student in America, in a purpose to do well in a very, very bold 21st century world. If we lift the heads of our children, Fred, they surely won't find their validation or believe the lie that their validation is between their legs. And secondly, they'll look up with a sense of purpose that'll keep them from, I know, a drag of this constantly. I really believe we start inspiring our children, these things won't have the toxic effect they're having on them. But the Lifted Heads program, by the way, in the elementary schools, in the middle schools, in the high schools, no phones.
All right. Frank Keasler for mayor. One nation under God, indivisible, the frank leadership we need. We're going to have to expand this conversation.
I surely would like to
get more time, because there's some things. Your campaign, honestly, sounds more like a movement than a political event. And
it is.
I think we need to hear more from you.
And Fred, if you just let me leave you with this, that in my going through the last year and a half and speaking to people, friends of mine that are Black friends of mine, literally, and people that even strangers have said to me when I tell them my vision for campuses for sustained independence and under my Elevate Northwest program, they literally say, you care more about Black people than Black people care about Black people. I said, I don't care if they're red, yellow, black, white, or brown. We got a problem in our country, and it's long been too long. Sorry for the redundancy, a problem. When you and I are sitting here on a radio show today, a podcast today, you with me? You and I can talk about anything, and we can agree to disagree if we find ground we can agree upon. But I can tell you this much. This is sure better than it was 50 years ago, and we got a chance to make a difference, because Jacksonville is that perfect city to do something different, and no more money. We'll talk again. Thank you so much, Fred. It's an honor. I hope you've been pleased with my presence and inspired by my crusade and, this movement.
I'll see you on the campus.